And then for the speakers as well, Pak Fides to present. Thank you very much for all. And now I'd like to invite Mas Arko to lead the next session.
Climate change in Indonesia. I'm pleased as the session lead for the second session. I would like to invite Pak Nur Pamuji, President Director of Indonesia Electricity Corporations. Unfortunately, he cannot come to the sessions, and it will be represented by Bapak Imade Ro Sutya, Division Head of Strategic Corporate Planning. Silakan ke panggung Pak Imade. And then I would like to invite Bapak Ucok Siagian, Bapak Ucok Siagian, Chairman of Petroleum Engineering Department, Bandung Institute of Technology. Bapak Howard MC, Young Professor, Australian National University. Please come to the stage. And also Mr. Jeff Briggs, Chief Executive Officer of Climate Boards Australia and Director of the Monash Sustainability Institute. And Herman Darnell Ibrahim, President of ICEES, the Indonesian counterpart for energy and environmental studies. Please, Pak Herman. We will have three prepositional questions for these sessions. First, what does an economically, socially, environmentally sustainable energy future in Indonesia looks like? And secondly, where should Indonesia be aiming to get to in 2050? And what sustainable energy goals and targets should it aim for? And finally, of course, what kind of solution network can be developed to achieve those goals in the futures? I will Bapak Imade Ro Sutya, which please chair the sessions. You have 10 to 15 minutes each speaker. Please, time is yours.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So, first, of course, actually, Pak Nur Pamuji, my President Director, is invited here, but unfortunately, today he has another important meeting, so he asked me to represent him in this very important meeting. So, my apology for this. Pak Marzuki cannot attend this meeting. So today we have four speakers, and I think 4 speakers, and 5 including me, because Pak Nur Pamuji is invited as a speaker as well. So I think we have 15 minutes, Pak, each. 10 minutes for each speaker. So I think I will start the presentation of Mr. Nur Pamuji first, and then we will have a presentation for each other. So first, I would like to have presentations for the. So on behalf of Pamuji, I will present mainly on the electricity development policy. This is the policy of PLN for a greener future. Okay, so this is the electricity in Indonesia. Actually, as we know that we have a lot of islands, more than 70,000 islands. I heard that around 3,000 islands is inhabited. What we have for electricity, not all big islands have what we call interconnected system. We have 7 interconnected systems. In Sumatra, it is interconnected in one system. Java in one system. Kalimantan is still 2 systems. West Kalimantan and the East and South Kalimantan, Central Kalimantan will be one system. Sulawesi is still 2 systems. So Central, West, and Central, West, and then South and Southeast will be one system next year, and the other is North Sulawesi. Other area is still a very scattered system. We have some small transmission system in Nusa Tenggara, yeah, but still very small, so it is still very scattered. Even Sumba, we only have 20 kV networks, and other island. Our biggest island as well, Papua, it is very scattered. We still have very small transmission system in Jayapura and in Manowari. So this is our challenge, PLN challenge, to electrify all of these Indonesia islands. We have now around 200 small isolated systems in small islands. So if we have around 3,000 islands, it means that we still have to electrify more than 2,500 islands. So this is very challenging for us. But if you see to the electricity ratio now, in September, our electricity ratio is around 82.8%. It means around 17% is not yet electrified, meaning that we have now around 250 million population, means around 40 to 50 million people in Indonesia is not yet electrified. If we see that the lesser location is in Nusa Tenggara, I think, yeah. So I think this should be accelerated for electrification. Papua as well, Sulawesi, even if it is more than 50%, but this is challenge. But Sulawesi, I think in the near future we will have transmission here and transmission to Kendari. So we hope that this can be solved in a conventional way by transmission. Yeah. But this is the population is very scattered, so we will have unconventional way, like developing the renewable energies, hybrid system as well. So we hope that this can be accelerated in faster way. This is what we think that next year, 10 years, the on the growth, electricity growth demand, the less demand, the less growth will be in Jawa Bali. But because in Jawa Bali is around 80% of total electricity consumed here, still that the highest demand will be in Jawa Bali. Even the growth is still around only around 7.8% compared to other islands. Sumatra will grow around more than 11%, and Kalimantan, Maluku is around 11.1%. So Sumatra will be the most growing island for the next 10 years. Many industrial will be built here, and now we are preparing huge transmission line to interconnect Sumatra from South Sumatra to North Sumatra, and we will interconnect Sumatra and Java as well. So on the electricity ratio, I think Jokowi said that we hopefully on 2019 will be 100%, but it seems it is very challenging. On our calculation that in 2019 our electricity ratio is around 97%, so we still have to catch around another 15% from now, yeah. And then the more we get to 100%, the more challenging, because most of the electricity ratio is around in this island. This is what we have for the additional capacity. On this additional capacity, because for the big island needs a big power plant, then coal will be still dominated, yeah. And then fossil fuel, another fossil fuel, combined cycle, geothermal and hydro around 50 gigawatt hours. We have additional around 15 gigawatt hours. On the policy of private participation, PLN is very welcome on that. So we are now on this map with we need around 71 gigawatt for next 10 years. This is, I think, more than 40% will be built by IPP, yeah. And there are some what we call unallocated. Unallocated means that this is open. Which one will be faster, whether IPP or even PLN itself, because it is depend on the financial conditions, whether IPP have provide the land and etc. So this unallocated portion can be built by PLN or IPP. So, but we are very welcome on the IPP participation on this. This is the fuel mix compositions. Again, coal will still dominate it up to the next 10 years, because we are still growth more than 8% up to 10 years, so we need a big power plant for that. And then for the renewable portion, this is hydro and geothermal. From now around 10% will be increased to around 16%. Yeah. But this is according to our policy, because the renewable energy, mostly for hydro and geothermal, as long as it can be developed, then Philippines will be welcome to cooperate with the development of this two kind of energy. Okay, so for the power system development policy, I think PLN first is priority on renewable energy development, geothermal and hydro. As long as it can be developed, it will be put in our planning, and there are special treatment for small renewable energy. So it doesn't have to be put in our planning, what we call RUBTL, but as long as it can be developed, and then there will be some special treatment, means we can do the direct appointment, something like that, with the fit-in tariff according to regulation of the government. And then the second one, for the fossil fuel, we will use the low carbon technology, like for the coal power plant we will use supercritical and ultra supercritical boiler. And then for the gas fired, yeah, combined cycle power plant will use higher efficiency of the combined cycle. And then we will do the gas switching gasification on oil fired power plants. and then refurbishment of the old power plant for higher efficiency and cleaner. And then this is the last slide. On private participations, I think we are very welcome on that, because we know that PLN cannot build all of the power plant needed in Indonesia. So we will open for small renewable energy, more incentive on. We hope that the government can give more incentive on a small private power plant, and then for the IPP development, which is bigger power plants, we hope government will accelerate on the IPP expansions, need that more incentive on the IPP that have successfully done in Indonesia, and then there will be a regulation. We hope the government can make that. I heard that the government is now preparing the cooperation between power utilities. So if there are power utilities, we can make some cooperations and strategic partnership. This will accelerate the power additional, and then incentive on excess power. Now the contract is only, maximum length of contract is only 1 year. I think this is should be lengthened more than 1 year, and then the pricing as well. Pricing is set to the fixed price. So we have communicated with the government that we hope that this policy can be giving more, increasing the success rate of the development of IPP. So I think that's my presentations, and now I think
One month, apologize for my mistake since we are running out of time. So could you please, the rest speakers, prepare for 5 minutes,
Okay.
not 10 minutes.
Sorry, Pak.
So I would like to invite Pak Ucok for the 5 minutes presentation. Thank you. Thank you, Pak Budi.
Thank you very much. First, thanks to the organizer to invite me from ITB to present the works that we have done in the past 6 months with SDSN and IDRI about the deep decarbonizations in Indonesia, especially in the energy sector. Also, I'd like to correct the information that I was petroleum engineering department chair until last year, but today I represent the Center for Energy and Policy research team from ITB. Thank you. So next. So this is the outline of my presentations. Is about the introduction. What is the deep decarbonizations? And then I'll talk about past trends about the emissions, especially from energy sector, and then decarbonizations, and then followed by what is the pathway for Indonesia to achieve the, to contribute to the achievement of the 2-degree limits that internationally agreed. And then I will give some closing remarks about the deep decarbonizations. Next, please. So the deep decarbonization project is a pathway project. Is ongoing projects, ongoing studies, sponsored. Chaired by the SDSN and also IDRI. That's the founder of this institution of the DDP, and it consists of the study team. About we have currently 15 members, including Indonesia. That this represent 15 major emitters, and also about 70% is GHG emissions from these countries. And also this research team also in different states of development. And about achieving the 2-degree limits, we have global emissions should be zero until in the mid of century, and then we have what we call it carbon budget, about 825 gigaton until 2050. and also to be able to stay in with the budget, and then the CO2 emissions in 2050 should be in the 11 to 15 gigaton per year. And assuming that the world population is about 9.5 billion in 2050, and then we have to reduce to 9.6 ton per capita in 2050. And as an view right now, Indonesia, especially in the energy sector, is around 1 ton per capita in 2010. And the current research stage is the first stage is to technically explore what is the possibility of the each country, of each member countries, to reduce the GHG emissions, and the first stage is only technical feasibility. So at the second and later stage, we will explore more on the economics and also cost and benefits, and also what is the policies needed to implement all those targets. And also we also will discuss later about in the research, we will discuss also what is the role of different countries in achieving this target. This is the Indonesian trend. As we see that Indonesia actually in the GHG emission, energy is not the largest, but forestry is the largest. Energy is about 20% of the total emissions, but still most of the activities, many activities in energy can be mitigated to reduce the CO2 emissions. And you can see here from the energy sector, the majority is from coal, and the second one is the oil, and the end-use sector mostly is from direct combustions. And to reduce the GHG emissions, we need to know first to decompose what is the major contributor in terms of the drivers. So if we look at this, the drivers of the GHG emissions is from the growth of the economy that we have 5 or to 6 years in the past 2 decades, and also about the type of industry, type of consumptions that we are using in the past 20 years, is that mostly they are getting more into the energy intensive industries. In terms of the major contributors, power sectors of course is number 1, and then followed by industry, and the third is by the transport sector. As of developing nations, we still continue to strive for high economic growth. So this is the scenario that we are thinking about 2050. So we will grow still about between 5 to 6% until 2050. And also we expect that the electrification ratio can be almost to 100% in 2050. And poverty eradications will continue, that we will only about 2% in 2050. And this is the pathway that we are trying to research. What is the possibility that we can decarbonize in the future? So we have to drastically change the energy supply and demand. Yeah, and then from the decarbonizations in the primary energy, you will see that we have to reduce oil consumptions and reduce the coal share, which is maybe not popular. Yeah, but we have to do that to achieve the 2 degrees, contribute to the 2 degrees C target, and then also increase the share of natural gas and also share of renewables. Yeah, and also, maybe this is also not popular, begin to use nuclear power if we want to achieve to remain to about 1.6 ton per capita in 2050. And the pillars of the decarbonizations, we have 3 pillars. One is the energy efficiency measures, and the second one is decarbonizations of electricity sector. Decarbonization of the electricity sector is mostly to be achieved through CCS. Coal, but we still use coal, but we have to use clean coal technology, high efficiency, but has to be coupled with CCS. That's also one key factor that we we have to do if we want to contribute to the 2 degrees C target. And also another pillars, the third pillar is the electrifications of the end user. So especially the industry and also in the transport sector, that normally with use combustions, we have to electrify, electric cars and then electric boilers probably in the future. But the electricity supply itself has to be decarbonized. Otherwise, we cannot achieve the 2 degrees target. And also, we look at the results of decarbonization activity. We have emissions in terms of total emissions. Yeah, that's the we will increase first in the next 20 years, but then we have to decline, in the emissions by implementing the deep decarbonizations. And then this is I have some slides about what's the distribution by sectors, but probably that's too much. And this is the closing remarks that we have deep decarbonizations needs electrifications in end users, and then clean coal technology with CCS, and then use all possible renewables, especially significantly we have to deploy solar, and then use of nuclear power plants. And we have also some other remaining questions. At what cost all of this that we want to decarbonize, and who will pay? And then what will be the economic impact? That is the next questions that we will discuss with the SDSN and IDRI. And what is the compensation for not exploiting the fossil resources? Who will pay this? And then also how we use this as a component of climate negotiations in the world. Actually, I was invited to talk also the second topic is about the Bandung scenario, which is the scenario that we developed with UKP 4 in September. We developed in 2 weekends. We use a methodology that's called the Monfleur methodology. That was used by South Africa to foresee what will happen in Africa in the next 20 years. But we use this for energy sector. And could you please speed up so we have 28 prominent members of the energy sector, directors of oil company, directors of PLN, and also from governments, also from academy, to think in 2 weekends to think what will be the future of Indonesia. What will the scenario for Indonesia? But this scenario is not a plan. A scenario is about the thinking that what could happen. And then it's not story what will happen, but it could happen. So we have finally find 4 scenarios. The first scenario, next please. Yeah, next please. So we have 4 scenarios, what we call it, the waves, the rocks, and then the storm, and also the crew. The one that's related to probably the SDSN meeting is about the storm, where the climate change become a big issue in the 2030. So Indonesia has to manage this. That's what the environment, that the development of energy sector when climate change become a constraint or become a big issue, and then that's we call it the storm. The rest is the waves is actually continue what's happening right now. It happened in 2030. We still have subsidy, and then the rocks is about the competitions between the big countries around the regions because of resources like South China Sea. It's become a big issue. And then the last one is the last one is about the autonomy become a big issue in the future. I mean, regional autonomy, that many small companies, energy companies will emerge in the 2030. That's like micro hydro become a larger portion of the industry, energy sector. That's what we call it, the fourth scenario. I forgot the name, but there is a pulse of small regions where the energy become more independent compared to centralized system that we have right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ucok Siagian. And now I will invite adjunct professor Howard Dempsey. 5 minutes, Pak. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Since we're running short of time, I'll make some very brief remarks and then hope that we can return to the topic that I've been invited to address in discussion, and that is green growth. What's the relevance of, well, first, what is green growth? What does it mean? Is it just another phrase? What's the relevance in terms of long-term solutions for Indonesia in growing more prosperous and yet still dealing with those storms that we see ahead for all countries? Green growth is really a way of seeking to minimise the stormy weather. It's recognising the challenges, but trying to find, amongst all of the challenges of maintaining prosperity, becoming even more prosperous while dealing with climate change and associated sustainability questions, keeping our focus on solutions. So to go back where we began this morning, green growth is about solutions, not about problems. Many of you will know that the climate change negotiations, the international negotiations, have been painfully slow in finding the global solution to climate change. And one of the reasons for that is that the way in which those negotiations are conceived is all about the burden of dealing with climate change. So the negotiations are all about how we share the burden and the costs and the difficulty, the challenges, the storms of climate change. And when you're talking about those sorts of things, you're going to become defensive, you're going to become conservative, and you're going to lose the plot. And that's effectively what we've done by seeing the climate change challenge as simply a burden. Green growth is about understanding that amongst the burdens, there are the opportunities. And we've heard this morning a number of presentations that have focused on those opportunities that occur in meeting the challenge of climate change. Indonesia has been amongst the very first countries to recognise that there is opportunity and that in grasping the opportunities, climate change can be dealt with while maintaining economic growth, while extending electrification to all of the people of Indonesia. Indonesia was a founding member of the Global Green Growth Institute, where I've just spent some time, and that's an international and intergovernmental organisation designed to promote this idea. President Yudhoyono is now the president of the Global Green Growth Institute and is leading its work. The Global Green Growth Institute has been active in Indonesia for a couple of years now, and it's doing things with the government of Indonesia. It's not doing these independently, it's working inside Bappenas, for example. It's developed with Bappenas a tool for examining the development pathway in a way which brings together all of the potential gains from particular investments and projects in a way that Amory Lovins talked about this morning in his video, to look at all the benefits of projects which will help respond to the challenge of climate change. And those benefits might be in clean air, in better public health, in a host of associated job-creating industries which will follow from investment in green growth projects. The green growth idea has been underpinned for a long time by some very strong economic theory, and that's just been augmented, again with assistance from Indonesia, in the findings of the Commission on the New Climate Economy. Please have a look at that on the web. Indonesia was one of the 7 commissioning countries, and essentially the findings of this international commission identifies a number of different elements which are important in pursuing green growth, in pursuing growth while dealing with the challenges of sustainability. They are resource productivity, so making sure that we get the most out of all the resources we use, innovation to help us do that, and above all, this is my reading of it, integration, bringing things together, again, in a way that Amory Lovins outlined. There are many ways of approaching integration, and the report sets out some of them. For example, for business, you can bring together challenges by shadow pricing of carbon in your business. That will help you understand the pathway that can lead to improved business while dealing with carbon. We've heard this morning about the importance of renewables, of CCS, of electrification, of nuclear in Indonesia's long-term solution. I want to reiterate only one element which I think illustrates the way in which green growth operates in integrating all of the challenges that we see ahead, the stormy weather, in a way which builds prosperity, and that is energy productivity, sometimes called energy efficiency. Again, Amory Lovins mentioned this, other speakers have dealt with it. It's fundamentally important because energy productivity or energy efficiency is the cheapest energy resource available. It's a way of saving money, of extending energy services to more people, and of doing so in a way which builds the economy rather than calls on capital which can be deployed elsewhere. I won't go into that further. We've already heard people talk about it today, and there will be a chance for further discussion. I would just say that what often limits energy productivity and energy efficiency is a lack of capacity. That there are ways of approaching it which sometimes aren't immediately obvious, and these deliver enormously useful results of the scale that Amory Lovins outlined. There are lots of partners available now to assist in this task, and it's a very worthwhile one. I think it can be fundamental in underpinning not just the search for solutions, but the movement towards those solutions in Indonesia and elsewhere. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, please, Mr. Dev Briggs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.